Roberts & Roberts Brokerage presents Keenevention 2015's Cop Block Panel. Roberts & Roberts, when you're serious about precious metals. Online at rrbi.co.
And welcome back to Keenevention. First day, it's Friday. Thank you to everybody who came out. I want to introduce our next panel host. He's J.P. Freeman. He's known to a lot of the cop blockers around the country. He's gone to different locations and has helped out in Ohio and various other places. Was it Philly as well, I think? So he's got a lot of experience in the streets. He and I have been out a number of times with other cop blockers, including Steve and other folks here in Keene, heading out to the college neighborhood and doing a lot of outreach and cop blocking there. I'm sure he can talk a lot more about that. But he's definitely earned his place as the host of the Cop Block panel for this year. J.P. Freeman, thanks for being here. I'll let you introduce your wonderful panelists.
I'm J.P. Freeman from Keene Cop Block and copblock.org. I'm going to introduce the panel. Is Steve Daves from Keene Cop Block, Jessica Phillips from Keene Cop Block, who I married a few months back, and Ann Leverett from Seditious Sirens, and Rob Mathias from the Rebel Love Show. I introduced these guys because I want to they have a lot of experience with the DUI checkpoints, and I've only done maybe 2 or 3, and I don't have much experience with the DUI checkpoints. I know when I went and did the DUI checkpoint in Manchester a year and a half ago, actually it might have been 2 years ago, there was something like 35 to 50 people out. It was absolutely unbelievable. I'd never seen such a turnout at a DUI checkpoint ever. The first one I did was actually, I think it was Walpole, New Hampshire. And that was the first time I actually got introduced to the Liberty activists in the Keene area, and there was about 25 people out that night, and really got to know a lot of people there. Steve Daves has come out with me usually around now every single year for the past few years. He's been on a panel last year, and been kind of an implant into the Liberty movement, and moved here, FSP mover, correct?
That's right.
Yeah, and my wife Jessica is also an early mover, and they bring a whole new level to cop blocking. Now me, I got introduced to the cop block because I was involved in a lawsuit against Keene Police Department, and in the process I actually met Pete Eyre. And Pete Eyre, one of the co-founders of copblock.org, introduced me into the movement, and it's been a ride ever since. I have a few questions for these guys, especially having not knowing the Manchester area that well. I've been to Atlanta. I did meetups in Atlanta, Ohio, with Dio from the regional cop block out there. Lehigh Valley Cop Block, which basically covers the southeast area of Pennsylvania, and did Philly. Been down Atlanta, Myrtle Beach, and I've been to Miami-Dade doing meetups down there 2 years ago. And it's almost the same everywhere. They're all combat oriented, and the police are just getting overstructured with so many laws, and basically. I think they do it for revenue purposes. Some people have a different political view, but I know here in Keene they make about $38,000 to $40,000 a month on college kids alone. Open containers and noise complaints, $40,000 a month. It's just crazy. I know Jessica's been out a few times. She's actually driven around, stopping in the middle of the highway. But right now, I want to ask. Rob, what was one of your scariest moments that was pretty sketchy, thinking, during a police interaction?
During one of the DUI checkpoints in Manchester, there was, I believe it was the one that you were at. It was the one where one of the drivers was honking their horn as in support for us, and the police pulled him over and ended up arresting him. We went up to the jailhouse and then the police station, just walking distance, to go check on and see what's going on with the guy. And outside of the jailhouse, the police came up to us like very abruptly with their squad car, shining their lights in our faces the whole time, not answering any of our questions, like who are you, what's your name, stuff like that. And then they like circled around and then came back on the sides, like started to like almost prey on us, like follow us closely, and like we would walk up to them, like, what are you doing? They're recording us, and then they flee away and they're doing it again. It was like they were playing with us, but at the same time, when they're in front of us, they got like very in your face, like hands in our camera, flashing lights at us, like telling us to get out of here, like not being like polite in any way, shape, or form, but just following us around was the scariest part. That there's these men, costumes, and guns that think it's okay to use violence because it is Manch PD, and we know Manch PD has a bad rep for using violence in New Hampshire, and. Yeah, that's probably like the most scariest part when I've been doing cop blocking so far in Manchester.
What about you, Ian? What was one of your scariest moments in a police interaction?
Actually, my scariest moment just happened right before I came here on Thursday. I was walking home from work, and I see the Manch PD pull into like a park, and I'm like getting out my phone because we like to text each other and just say, hey, the cops are hiding over here, watch out. But this particular cop, he just looked suspicious to me, so I was like already like checking out, like I don't know what he's doing. And then another cop pulls up beside me, and then another cop pulls up in front of me. And I'm like, they can't be stopping me, I'm just walking home from work. And they all get out of their cars, like 6 of them, and just stand around me in a circle. And they're like asking me if I'm some girl named Star. Like, I immediately just freeze and take out my phone because I'm like, this is gonna be, that's what's gonna stand between me and them, is my camera and this phone. And he's like, oh, you're gonna record me? And I just put my phone closer to his face. I don't say anything. And I know you're supposed to talk, so he just kept asking me who I am, but I wouldn't tell him that. But he kept asking me, am I some girl named Star, apparently? And I just say, no. He says, what's your name? And I say, nothing. I just look at him. And he says, you look like her. And I just look at him even harder. Like, it doesn't look like me. It's not me. Then they just continue to stand around me, and I just continue to hold my phone. And they stop recording at this point, but they don't know that, and I feel like this is the only thing that's gonna save me. But yeah, I feel like I knew I had the right to remain silent. I knew I didn't have to tell them my name or anything I didn't want to tell them. And I knew if I had that camera out in my hand that I'd be safe. And it was just like 6 of these cops just ready to like grab me because they think I'm some woman named Star, and I'm walking down the street and they just laugh. Oh, I guess it's not you, ha ha ha. Oh, you think it's funny? You have the right to just stop me and just like scare the living shit out of me. So that was one of the scariest moments, but luckily I don't have a fear of taking out my phone now from cop blocking. I have no fear. I'll always put it in their face, like, this is my protection against you, so.
What about you, Jessica? I mean, you're married to a pretty aggressive cop blocker, so I'm pretty sure you have a lot of scary moments. But what was one of your biggest, scariest moment in a police interaction?
Honestly, I don't really.
Microphone.
I honestly don't get really scared when I'm dealing with the police. I mean, I've been around JP long enough that it's not really a challenge to deal with a situation. But a disturbing situation that happened was some cops, they stopped my kids because they were out, and Bella, my oldest, who's almost 10, was actually recording a traffic stop with her phone because she's used to us doing this. And so they stopped my son Wyatt and Bella and my daughter. This is not going on. Oh, thank you. And what they wanted to do, they were just asking him questions, and Wyatt and Bella, they said that we don't talk to cops, we don't talk to police, we don't answer questions.
How old is Wyatt and Bella?
Wyatt he just turned 8, and Bella's 9.5. And the cops were pretty upset about that, and they kept trying to get them to engage in conversation, and they refused to. And at this point, JP comes out, and you had an interesting conversation with them about that, and they were pretty upset that we were raising our children to not interact and engage with police. And turns out they actually addressed that at roll call that night about our kids basically growing up as little cop blockers and and not wanting to engage the police and talk to them, and that they thought that that was like threatening to them and their cause. So.
Just to add to that story, what happened was one of my youngest, my stepson Cody, comes running in the house with his bare feet and says, "Wyatt and Bella are surrounded by police." And you know how little kids embellish. There was only one cruiser with 2 cops in it. Kyle Macy and a guy named Kevin Baca. I know every single cop here in the city, and they all know me. So I went down to find out, and the guy's like interrogating our 9-year-old, Bella. And she's like, "I don't talk to the police. I don't answer questions." They were so mad at this. They were like really upset. He was telling me, "You shouldn't teach your kids that. That's horrible, blah, 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 blah." And I had a cop block event that night, and didn't see either one of them. But the next day, I was, I don't know if you knew this, but Keene State College added $240,000 for area towns to help them out because of the riots for the first 4 weeks of the opening of Keene State College. Usually the first 4 weeks, they do more parties, and there's a lot of parties, so they wanted to up the ante on the police presence there. So you had Surrey cops helping, Swansea cops helping, there was state police on foot walking around. It's amazing. On a noise complaint, they would show up 13 cops, to just a noise complaint. But to add to the story that she's talking about, I was having a conversation with one of the cops named Officer Thompson. There was a Surrey cop there. He was like, "Oh, yeah, they actually mentioned your kids during roll call," not knowing who I am. And I don't know if you know this, but I file complaints from top to bottom. I go through the police department, the town, the U.S. Attorney General's office, New Hampshire Attorney General's office. I make their life a little bit hard when I feel like rights are being violated. So, and I follow up with every single one of them. And Thompson, literally, it looked like the breath was taken out of his life. He's like, "Oh, why did you say that to JP? Why did you just say that?" So the next night, I ended up seeing Kyle Macy, and I have a video. It's on Keene Cop Block Raw, and it's titled Keene Cop Block Cop Lies, and then during interrogation ends up admitting that he mentioned my kids during roll call. Kyle Macy, I literally caught him lying about it on video, and he says, "No, I didn't mention it." And literally at the end of the video, he ends up coming clean and saying, "Yeah, he did mention my kids during roll call," saying, telling all the cops in the room that JP teaches his kids not to talk to the police, and we need to stop this right now. He thought that was bad, teaching my kids the Fifth Amendment. I'm like, they have a right to be silent. So he has a problem with that. So that's basically to add to that story. Yeah, that was a pretty scary moment. Steve, what was one of your scariest moments in a police interaction, here or otherwise?
I've had a couple scary moments. That's kind of what it takes to kind of wake up to the police state a little bit, you know, is to be afraid a little bit or to see other people that are afraid. If you haven't seen enough of the YouTube videos, they're definitely there. But for me, I think the scariest moment was probably when I was 5, and my mother had been pulled over for failing to use a blinker, and the police officer found an empty open container in the back seat, and I was taken away for like a week and a half. And that kind of really awakens you to the fact that these people have the right to kidnap people, that nobody else has, or the right that nobody should have, especially when there's no victim. And that's kind of, unfortunately, I think it's kind of framed my opinion of that you don't really have the right to kidnap people, even if you're a police officer. So I think that was definitely the scariest moment. I can still remember it.
Something like that would definitely implant in your brain. My scariest moment was the last year around now during the Pumpkin Fest riots. And I wanted to ask a few more questions, but their panel